So we have a ton to go ahead and cover in regards to Tesla stock. We have quite a few updates, and in reality, I want to go ahead and cover Tesla stock from a broader perspective, not just the charts, but really talk about everything that is going on because quite frankly, there is a ton going on. And so I want to just kind of cover all the mini updates for Tesla stock and really talk about the catalyst events coming up in the next few days that could significantly influence the price action for Tesla stock, either going upwards or downwards. So make sure to watch this video in its entirety. And I often forget to ask, but if you find any value in today's video, make sure to hit that like button, as it really does help out with the channel. So definitely do me that favor if you can. Now, for those of you guys that habitually watch the channel, I did take a bit of a hiatus, right? Just real quick, just going to want to mention, yeah, things are going down, things are going on. However, the goal or the objective is to upload more frequently. Of course, I just had to take some time to work on myself, right? As often, right, the growth that you want to see isn't just in your portfolio, it has to be on your personal character as well. So not just on the charts, but on your character as well. And that goes for me or anyone watching. So if there's any message you take for this video or from this video, make sure to work on something for yourself and set a goal for the end of the week, right? Shouldn't have to say this. This is a channel where we talk about the markets, but I think it's important to kind of mention those, details sometimes. But going straight into Tesla stock, right? I want to go ahead and cover just a little bit of what's going on. And before we actually talk about the chart, let's kind of talk about what is actually going on, right? Because we have geopolitical conflict, which I'm sure you guys have heard in the news on June 13th. So just a few days ago, Israel launched an operation that they called Rising Lion, which was an airstrike to Iran. And then, of course, Iran fired back. So we have a bit of geopolitical tension. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cover what's really going on and how this could influence the market. But before we do so, just kind of want to highlight what we're seeing in other areas of the market. For example, oil prices since this major event, this geopolitical conflict has been rising up. So if you're someone that likes trading oil, then this could be a potential opportunity. However, for me personally, I'm going to go ahead and provide an update for those within the Push and Profit private group on a position that I have that I think is a better position to really take advantage of this geopolitical conflict. Of course, we don't want to just profit off war, but of course, as someone who is participating in the market, you have to kind of adjust your portfolio for what's currently going on. And right now, it looks like a lot of money is kind of flocking towards those safe haven assets, which of course I'll go ahead and touch on that for those within the Push and Profit private group tonight. But just kind of wanted to share that. Now, we also have a significant event coming up this week, right? Of course, we have Juneteenth, the market, we have that federal holiday. But what we really have on Wednesday is FOMC having their interest rate decision. So that's where we have the Federal Reserve make their decision on monetary policy, as well as a press release. And what makes this meeting even more special is that we get a summary of economic projections, right? The SEP, that most people that follow the markets, they're not familiar with this, but it's a very important event that we don't get in every single meeting. It comes every other meeting. And the reason why this is a huge event to kind of watch out for is because we get a dot plot release, right? So if you don't know what the dot plot is, this is what we got last time in March, once we had the dot plot. And it shows us where the constituents within the Federal Reserve, where they're thinking rate cuts are going to be taking place. And what we saw last time is that a large portion of them really only suggested that maybe there'll be one rate cut for 2025 or maybe none at all, right? And so that's a bit concerning because, of course, the market wants to see rate cuts. We want to see rates come down as we want more stimulus in the market because, of course, that's going to bring financing down. And so a lot of small cap companies will be able to finally breathe. Of course, the mega cap companies, right? It's a win-win for many corporations because, of course, it's cheaper to finance debt. And, of course, sometimes you have to take on debt to go ahead and expand the operations of the business. So, of course, that's what the market is watching out for. Now, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but one thing I want to highlight is that the future markets, they're pricing in a 96.9% chance that in this upcoming meeting, in the next few days, the Fed is going to hold rates steady. So don't expect a rate cut in this next upcoming meeting. Now, if there was a rate cut, very bullish, super bullish. But I would not hold your breath on that. What we really want to see, of course, we're not expecting that rate cut. The market isn't expecting that. But what's really important is that dot plot and possibly seeing if the Fed changes their stance And maybe we have more members of the Federal Reserve say, okay, maybe 2025 we'll have 2 rate cuts. So we'll want to kind of see where their head is at. And of course, listen to the tone and the verbiage from Jerome Powell in that statement that he's going to have, of course, that press relief. I take it he's going to be very stressed, very stern, as he often is, and probably not give us much, but we'll want to kind of tune in for that. Now, real quick, also something I want to mention is that this is a week of low activity in terms of earnings. Earnings season is pretty much out the window. Yeah, we have a couple of companies, but it's out the window, so earnings season, I wouldn't even worry about that. But what we do want to kind of focus on in regards to Tesla is June 22nd, right? We had someone on X, formerly known as Twitter, someone wrote to Elon saying, when do first public rides start? We're all drooling over that one tiny clip that was shown from today. And Elon said tentatively June 22nd. We are being super paranoid about safety, so that date could shift. But first Tesla that drives itself from factory end of line all the way to a customer's house is June 28th. So we have this catalyst event. So on top of at the FOMC meeting, on top of the geopolitical conflict, something that we're gonna want to watch out for is this event in the next upcoming, week and a half, right? So that's something that's it could be very bullish. It could be something that's like buy the rumor, sell the news. Or it could be actually something that's a significant change in Tesla, where people stop looking at Tesla as just an automotive company, and maybe the light bulb turns on and we're like, oh, it's actually a massive AI play. Now we'll have to see, because of course I'm gonna be honest, I'm a bit in the middle, right? And I know when I say that, we got the Tesla zealots who are like, Justin, what are you saying? Tesla stock is the future. Okay. I have to wait. I have to see for myself, right? So just like everyone else, I'm going to be paying attention to this upcoming event. And who knows? Maybe it's just all, smoke and mirrors, and it's fugazi, nothing important. Or maybe we are going to see that massive shift in sentiment for Tesla. Of course, we'll have to watch out. And what is a great way to watch out for how people are viewing Tesla? Well, that's simply the price action. And that's why we're going to kind of end this video on the note on technical analysis, which is really just paying attention to price, because price tells the ultimate story. I know people were like, hey, I saw a comment in a recent video, hey, technical analysis is fugazi, it's only macroeconomic data, monetary policy, and fundamentals. No. I think it's important to pay attention to everything, including the technicals, because we want to see what price action is looking like. If we see price action go up after the event, well, that means people are putting their mouth or their money where their mouth is. I think that's the phrase, right? Someone correct me, but that goes to tell you that, look, people are very optimistic. So again, we'll have to wait to see what price tells us. It's going to reveal the true story. Now, before we kind of talk about the price action for Tesla, real quick, I did forget to mention about, this geopolitical conflict. Long term, the market is likely to recover, especially if the conflict remains regional, because markets often, they rebound quickly, especially in a broadly bullish environment. However, full-scale escalations, right, if things, kind of spread, well, then that's where we could see more volatility. So I kind of wanted to mention that in regards to the geopolitical conflict. Of course, we won't delve into, what's right, who's right on this side. That could, be a whole different story that this is not the place to go ahead and talk about, right? We're just talking about the market and what's going on. Now, what's going on with Tesla stock? Well, there's a few interesting things that we're seeing, right? So on the left-hand side, we have what's called the market profile, and it shows us different areas where price held up. And when we see like a large node, where we see this high volume node, that simply means that we're at this fair market value area for Tesla. A lot of market participants agreed that this was an area for Tesla that was of fair value. Now, when you're in a low volume node, well, that's when you see its price kind of fall down quickly or rise up quickly, and that's because maybe there's not this agreement of what the true value is for Tesla. For example, we see when we were coming down right over here, right, that was a huge drop in this area where there was little volume. There was a low volume node. Same thing when we came back up, huge move. Same thing when we came back down. Now, interestingly enough, as we kind of rebounded, right, I made a very kind of bearish video on Tesla. We did move up a little bit. It's nothing that is of much substance. Tesla stock moved up, I think, about a little over 8% from that last time I made that video. But we all know that Tesla can be very volatile. And so it actually got rejected, or kind of didn't move past forward the $334.41 area, which is interesting because that's again an area where there's a lot more volume here, right, there in the market profile. So this is a high volume node. So that kind of suggests that that's going to be an area of resistance. And the next thing we're going to want to watch out for is if we break above this area, and do we go into this area where we have momentum pushing upwards, right? Now, do I think it's very likely? I don't think so, right? And this is not me being bearish or being pessimistic for Tesla. I just personally don't think so. We are holding up very well. However, right? So we're currently around 324. So we'll have to see if this catalyst event with the robo-taxis is enough to propel Tesla upwards and break through this area where there's this kind of sentiment of fair value, and eventually break into we want to see 377, and if we want to be very optimistic, eventually back up into the 400s. I don't think that's the case. Fundamentally, I don't think the story is going to support itself to be at those levels, but we all know that oftentimes price can deviate from the fundamentals. Now, looking at Tesla stock, from a kind of more of a statistical approach, we're looking at the linear regression bands, with the middle line being the linear regression area, and of course the upper band and the bottom band being just two standard deviations away from the linear regression. And the idea with linear regressions is that oftentimes we see stocks kind of go back to the mean, right? We have this regression to the mean. And it acts as kind of like a magnet, right, or support and resistance. And so when we're too far off, that's oftentimes a buying opportunity downwards. If we're too high up, that's oftentimes an area of maybe selling into strength, right? Don't be too greedy, right? Especially, imagine not selling here and then you see Tesla stock fall down. Now, we did recover a bit, but again, you don't want to be too greedy. So we're hovering around here. We want to make sure Tesla holds up this linear regression, because if we break down below, well, we could see more pain for Tesla stock. Now, I want you guys to let me know in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts for Tesla stock as we go into this, event with the robo-taxi? Is it really something that's going to blow people's minds? I don't really think so. I think if there was maybe some data that came out for Tesla that's like, hey, look, rides are improving significantly, and people are really gravitating towards wanting to use these robo taxis. But again, there's not much data. I think it's personally more hype and news than actually something that's going to propel Tesla stock upwards. But I could be wrong, right? Just because I've been right about Tesla very often in the past doesn't mean that I'm going to be right all the time. For example, prime example, recently, the video before this, I said I wasn't optimistic for Tesla stock, and it moved up a little over 8%. Again, I'm going to be wrong. So you should always trade and invest in whatever you see value. Just because I am personally up on the market year to date, I'm outperforming the benchmark of the S&P 500, doesn't mean that, I'm going to be right in the future. So I could be wrong. I just personally, I'm not currently in a position for Tesla. So full disclosure, you guys do what you want to do with that news. I'm currently I'm holding other positions that I think are going to outperform, which if you're interested in those trade ideas, make sure to check out the links in the description below, because one of the links is going to be a link to join the Push and Profit private group, where I have my daily briefings. I talk about what's going on in the market and I share my trade ideas. So definitely check that out. And also check out the free weekly market post insight, where I talk about what's going on in the market every week. I send out an email. Make sure to take that email out of the spam section. Sometimes when I send that email, it goes in the spam folder. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. And with that said, again, if you found any value in today's video, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys on this next video right over here. Take care, guys.